Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. It is a lovely Sunday evening. Inter Miami's coming off a 4-0 victory over Atlanta United. That's back-to-back 4-goal games for the Herons, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm your host, Scotty. I'm here with my co-host, Saur. And before we get into that beatdown Inter Miami put on their state, I guess, next-door neighbor rivals, how you feeling, man?
I sat down for this podcast, and I don't know if I can ever get back up again. As you know, I ran a big race today, ran 10 miles, my first long race ever, and I am in excruciating pain. It went well, but that comes with consequences. I'm just glad to talk about anything to keep my mind off the pain in my body right now. So I'm doing well. How are you doing this Sunday evening? Quite late for us.
Well, I want to congratulate you because that's awesome. I know you've been training for
Thank
it.
you.
And I know with all your travels, you had to work to keep up with it. And so the fact you're able to do it in a good time, and it was seamless up until you let your body rest and realize how much pain you were in. I'm proud of you, man. And congratulations.
Thank you so much. Next time it's your turn.
Yeah, man. Thanksgiving 5K is coming around the corner.
Yep.
10 miles.
Turkey run.
I don't know about that. First, before we get into this game, I just want to do a little bit of house cleaning, and that starts with the Under-20 World Cup. Matteo Silvetti scored a goal for Argentina, and they beat Mexico in the quarterfinals, to advance to the semifinals, which means that either they're going to be in the championship game next weekend or they're going to be playing in the third-place game, which also means that he won't be available for Miami in their season finale against Nashville, and we won't have him back until that first round of the playoffs. So congratulations to Matteo and his team for advancing. It's, I'm sure, a great privilege to be at that tournament. So congratulations to him.
He's doing really well there. I'm glad that he's making the most of his time with the national team, because obviously you don't want your player to leave the club at this crucial juncture and then not have a good showing at the national team level. Seems to be doing really well. And the more I look at him play, the more I see his goals, the way he's performing for the national team, the more I think about coming into the playoffs, he's going to be crucial. This is some good minutes for him. And the fact that he's able to score a couple of goals, perform well, is going to build his confidence. And hopefully he can play a big role for this Inter Miami team in the playoffs, whether from the starting 11 or from the bench. I think he's going to be ready for the playoffs.
Do you mind if I hijack the podcast for a minute just to
Oh, no, absolutely
really
not.
talk about the US U20 team?
Yes, please.
Because Pepto in the chat says Ustari or Adam Beaudry. For those that don't know, the U.S. youth national team, led by and captained by Benjamin Kramaski, lost today in the quarterfinals to Morocco in a game that they were the better team in. And they lost 3-1, but their goalkeeper, I think, was responsible for probably 2.5 goals of those 3 allowed. We sort of had this conversation about Matteo Silvetti, and you guys told me you can't hold him back from the U20 national team. That is a great honor and a privilege, and a club shouldn't be doing that. And you guys talked me into it, and I agreed with you. But Barcelona did not feel that way. And the best goalkeeper at the under-20 age group for the U.S. men's or under-20 national team plays at Barcelona and was in Chile for this tournament before Barcelona made him come back to be the backup goalkeeper for them because Joan Garcia got hurt for 3 games. So all this kid did was sit on the bench and watch the U.S. U20 team that he was supposed to be the best player on from his couch. And because they were originally planning on bringing him, the number 2 goalkeeper, that age group, wasn't released by his team because they didn't want to let him go if he was going to sit behind this coaching kid from Barcelona. And the number 3 goalkeeper, same story. So they end up with like their 5th choice goalkeeper at that age group, and he has a stinker in the quarterfinal. The U.S. goes home in a game that I thought they were much better than. And that's my rant, and I'll leave it at that.
If only they had Rocco Ríos Novo, eh?
Yeah.
Who's Argentinian, technically.
I wonder if he's played for that level a couple years ago. Anyways, let's get into the game because that will make me much happier. Inter Miami dominated in a way that I think we thought we were going to see a lot this season, we only saw a couple times, but it was splendid. It was spectacular, and Inter Miami controlled the game from start to finish. You mentioned this last night that Inter Miami could have scored 6, 7 goals, and I was kind of thinking, like, I don't know, that does feel a lot like a Taylor Twellman thing to say, and scoring 4 goals is a lot. But then I rewatched it, and I got to give Hibbert a lot of credit because he made 3 saves from within the 6-yard box that kept this game from being 7-0. And I think Lionel Messi was the player trying to score on all 3 of them. So great game from Hibbert. Pretty terrible from almost everyone else on that Atlanta United team. And Inter Miami does what they do, which is crush inferior opposition. First thoughts, top line thoughts, headline thoughts on this game?
This is what Inter Miami's season should have looked across the board. I think we went into this game knowing that it's not as consequential as it could have been if we were still fighting for the supporter shield. The position is more or less locked. We can't really do much about the second spot. So not as many consequences involved here. And Inter Miami just completely dominated with their quality. I thought we looked sharp. We played really well together. The chemistry was flowing. Everyone was having fun. And I said it in the pregame show that this needs to be a game where you're just enjoying yourself on the pitch. Don't make it too complicated. Score a couple of goals and just do the basics right and enjoy. And that's what Inter Miami seemed to do. At some portions, it almost felt like it was a training exercise. You said it. Hibbert kept them in the game for large parts. Not just Messi. Suarez had a couple of good opportunities as well that he saved. And it could have been much worse for Atlanta. At the end of the day, it was just too superior an opposition for them to deal with. And the quality of Inter Miami, the quality of Messi just completely shone through. Really enjoyed what I saw from this team. And my biggest takeaway from this game would be building the momentum going into the playoffs. You don't want to go in off the back of 2 losses. So glad that we were able to get this win. And on to the next one against Nashville. That's going to be another good game to watch.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's the takeaway. Like, I don't know if you can take that away. This was a vastly inferior level of competition. This is like if Inter Miami went to the Open Cup and played their best 11 against the USL Division I team. And I don't really mean that as an insult to Atlanta, but just a reminder that not only are they a bad team in MLS, they were missing like 10 players to international duty, including some of their most talented. So Inter Miami did what they were supposed to do. They dominated the possession. They dominated the game. They dominated the flow. They certainly gave up a half chance, maybe, and that's being generous to Atlanta. So I think maybe we can wrap it up there and get to awards. Right?
Yeah, let's do it. That's
okay. Well, let's run through the goals first. 39th minute, Baltasar Rodriguez steals the ball from Tristan Mayumba. Mayumba tries to carry the ball through the midfield. And I did think it was interesting that the announcers a few minutes earlier had mentioned how they're not having success pushing the ball through the midfield. And then Mayumba tries to do just that. His pocket's picked by Baltasar Rodriguez, who then passes it wide on the right to Messi, who kind of just casually shifts the ball to his left foot and then whips a shot, a curler into that far side netting. It was a thing of beauty, really.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of other moments before that where it was easier chances for Messi. There was this one really good ball in from Sergio Busquets in behind that Messi just collected on his chest. He was onside where he shot it straight at Hibbert. This was a much more difficult chance. To talk about the midfield, I thought there was a lot of fluidity in there. There seemed to be some understanding among the players that one of the wide forwards and one of the forwards, not Suarez, but Messi, Baltazar or Allende, is going to tuck in to make that overload in the midfield, that number 3rd midfielder that we don't necessarily have. And that's what Baltazar was doing there centrally, trying to close off the spaces. As soon as Mayumba tried to run, he was there, closed off the space. Not full press, but a good position. Wins the ball really clean, and then does what he's supposed to do. Pass the ball to Messi, and Messi with a fantastic finish. Very underrated finish. That was not easy by any means, and he made it look so simple. That was a fantastic goal. And I thought Inter Miami was definitely good for that. Should have probably already had a couple in that game up until that point, but really happy with the game way that goal came, especially with us pressing in the midfield, winning the ball high up.
Yeah, you're right. I did glance over them, but 21st minute, 32nd minute, there was a couple real point blank opportunities
Yeah.
for Messi right around the 6 yard box, and Hibbert made nice saves on them. But Inter Miami finally does get the breakthrough in the 39th minute. There's actually another moment where Allende whips in a cross, finds Messi in the box. Messi puts another ball on frame. Again, 43rd minute, another save by Hibbert. So a number of chances in that first half for Messi to both open the scoring and extend the lead, but certainly Lionel Messi would get his by the end of this game. Inter Miami does get the second goal. I'm sorry. There's one more moment in the first half that I wanted to mention. In the 4th minute of stoppage time, Leo Alfonso,
Yeah.
a guy who earned us 3 points last year, had a really nice chance, put it across the face of goal. I thought it was a nice save by Rocco. But I wanted to give Leo Alfonso credit because I'm certainly rooting for him as a player. Going into the second half, 52nd minute, Inter Miami does get that second goal. It's a long ball by Messi. Jordi Alba makes the perfect run. It's the perfect pass from Messi. Jordi Alba lets it bounce once, and then he kind of just volleys it over the goalkeeper. Again, making it look easy is something you can only do if you have that level of talent. It's incredibly difficult, but these guys do make it look easy routinely.
There were two themes that came out of that specific chance for me. The long ball in behind the defense. I think Inter Miami tried to do a lot of that this game. Allende, Baltazar, Jordi Alba, the cross-field ball to them, the ball in behind from Messi, from Sergio Busquets was constantly on. I think Suarez got in a couple of times behind the Atlanta defense as well. I don't know if that's like much to look into because this Atlanta defense is quite poor, especially once their defender, their main defender, Gregerson, I believe, he got
Stein
injured.
Gregerson, yeah. In the 17th minute, he left the game.
Yeah. And a lot of the times Inter Miami, even though Atlanta wasn't playing that high up, was able to find that ball in behind. And Jordi Alba had a lot of space in that left-hand side, a couple of times got in. That finish, as you mentioned, not easy at all. Very much like the first goal. You would expect it to be a half a chance, but the way Jordi Alba took it, the angle he created for himself, and as soon as he chipped it, I didn't think it would go in, but it was beautifully done. Very calm, very composed. I'm glad he got his goal because this was like a big moment, of course, after announcing his retirement first game. And he got the goal that he wanted from Messi as well. And that's the connection I think they're going to cherish for the rest of their lives. There's only going to be a few more moments like that. So we as fans need to cherish that as much as we can.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. You're making me tear up here, man. No, it's so easy to kind of volley that ball and get a little bit of a curve on it, and you can kind of just see it tail away from goal. Certainly doesn't happen with Jordi Alba, and it's not because you think Jordi Alba is going to miss it, but you just have seen that type of shot so many times where it does get a little bit of a tailspin and sort of spin out of the way. Again, just wanted to point out a Leo Alfonso moment. 56th minute, he has a really nice cross from that right side into Jamal Tiare, who was not able to handle it well, but two positive moments for Leo Alfonso. So if we're going to give a Heron of the match for the Atlanta United team, I think Leo Alfonso deserved it.
Now, he looks good.
Yeah, he did. 61st minute, Fafa Biko puts in a cross. Pedro Amador tries to clear it, and he gets ahead on it, and he puts it out of the danger area, except he forgot Luis Suarez was standing at the edge of the box, who just off the volley whips it into the back of the net. Again, it's the type of play that is so unbelievably difficult, except when Luis Suarez does it, he makes it look difficult, but he still makes it happen. Another beautiful goal from Luis Suarez, and Inter Miami goes 3-up, and they are just running away with it.
Yeah, as soon as Fafa Pico put that ball in, I was like, Suarez is going to shout at him for not putting the ball into him. But eventually it lands at his feet or towards him, and he's falling. He somehow manages to get a very good connection in it. And again, great finish. We were very clinical in this game. Well, for some parts. For the more difficult chances, we were very clinical. For the easy chances, we were not. I really enjoyed that. That was a great goal from Luis Suarez. Again, I thought Inter Miami just creating some really good opportunities. Even Toto Aviles was making those cross-field balls look absolutely pinpoint, and Fafa Pico once again finding that space on that left-hand side. It was just, I think, really poor defending from Atlanta, and then Luis Suarez with a brilliant finish that only he can pull off, or Messi.
You know, the thing about Suarez is it's never been about the knees for him. It's been about the hips. And the hips are still working, man.
That was actually a full hip thrust shot.
Yeah. No, it's always been about the hips for him. Even you go back a couple games ago, he had a nice in the game Miami lost to Chicago. He has a nice goal where he's kind of botting off the defender. And he's falling over, but his hips can maintain his balance just long enough for him to sort of curl a ball into the back corner. It's always been about the hips for Luis Suarez. And then Inter Miami having fun for the rest of the game. 87th minute, Jordi Alba with a sort of a return ball, similar to what Messi did for him earlier, a ball forward. Messi makes the run in between the defenders, catches it off his chest, lets it hit the floor once, and then just that hard, low shot into the far corner. Whipped it past Hibbert. He gets his brace, finishes with 3 goal contributions. Jordi Alba, not only does he get his latest goal off the foot of a long Messi pass, but he also returns the favor and gets another assist on a Messi goal. So in a night that I think was designed to celebrate Messi, where Inter Miami was the better team, that Messi left Argentina duty to come be a part of, because I think of Jordi Alba, or at least in part because of Jordi Alba, this was how you write the script for it, really.
You know how I just said a moment ago that there's going to be very few of these opportunities that we're going to see Messi and Alba combine again, or Messi and Busquets combine again, and we should cherish these moments. I meant there's going to happen like another 10, 15 times over the next 3-4 games, but that was so poetic because you have Messi to Alba first, and then Alba just returns the favor once again, finding that space in behind. It was just so good, and everyone felt very comfortable. That's my key word of the day. They were comfortable. They were enjoying the game. It never felt like we left the second gear. And honestly, it has a lot to do with the opposition, Atlanta, and how they performed. But at the same time, Inter Miami had a job to do, and they could have not played well, but they performed all their duties very well, combined really well. The chemistry was on point. So overall, 4-0 could have been a lot more, but some fantastic goals this game.
Yeah, let's talk about Atlanta just for a minute, just so we can contextualize all of this appropriately. Miguel Almiron with Paraguay for international duty. Alexei Miranchuk with Russia, I guess. Bartosz Lisz, Saba Lobjanice, Ronald Hernandez, Luke Brennan. Like a lot of guys were missing for them. Johnny Fortune, a midfielder that they like, a young guy. Brooks Lennon, a fullback that's done some damage to Inter Miami. All not available for this game. Plus, they lost Stein Gregerson in the 17th minute. Plus, they're going with the young kid at goalkeeper to try and see what he's got for moving forward. So this is a very depleted team. Even some of their sort of good players that are still around, like Pedro Amador, he's playing as a center back in this game because that's how they have to get. That's how this roster organizes itself. That back line, again, Pedro Amador, more of a left wing back style left back than a center back style left back. He's playing as a center back. Berrocal, not a starter for them. And then Gregerson goes out early, and they end up with Mazzaferro, who's also a young one. So that back three, I thought, really, really struggled. And it's because they don't have a ton of minutes either at the professional level or at the center back position. And Inter Miami was really able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, all their DPs out. Their attacking prowess was reliant only on Latela, who I think hasn't scored in 5-6 games, and Jamal Tiare, who's notorious against Miami, but did not have the service that he needed. Midfield only had one known player in Moyumba, but I thought Sergio Busquets, Yannick Bright, far superior. And the defense was just not up for it. So you have to contextualize this. I will say, if they somehow figure out how to build their chemistry, there's some really good players in this team once they have their full 11 and once they have all their starting players. but that's for the next season. This season, it's done for them. Probably not going to get the spoon either because DC is worse than them.
Well, I think the
But they've
Galaxy are
not
going to
been
get the
good.
spoon.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
If the Galaxy don't
maybe.
win on decision day, they will end up with the spoon. I don't. I think you're right about Atlanta. I think biggest problem they have is a coaching issue that they haven't been able to get them all to fit. I also think this project was kind of put together haphazardly, where they got a lot of money, not a couple months ago summer, but last summer by selling Caleb Wiley and Thiago Almada and Jakub Marcus, and they wanted to sort of reset right away. They brought in Miranchuk, and then they brought in the coach and the new sporting director and all that stuff. And so then they were stuck with Miranchuk, and they brought a bunch of pieces that don't really fit. So I agree with you. I think there's some interesting pieces on this Atlanta United team, including Jaden Hibbert, their goalkeeper, who was certainly a bright spot for them yesterday. And then, of course, I think Leo Fonso has a real future with that team as an MLS caliber player, which is always good to see. So I don't have much else to say about Atlanta other than I would be really frustrated if I was an Atlanta fan. But
I'll also say
that
after
conversation.
last season's torment, it feels nice to actually have them in our rear view mirror and not have to compete with them in the playoffs at all.
Yeah, that's true too. As far as Inter Miami, I'm not sure. Like, it's hard for me to take anything away from this game because, as we just mentioned, the level of competition not great. I will also mention their midfield. Mayumba has maybe some of the worst individual moments, including when Baltasar stole it and that led to the opening goal for Inter Miami. But I thought the other two were really absent from this game. And so Inter Miami was just absolutely dominant in the midfield and then picking apart their back line. It was just a recipe for success. Some of their best players that are available, Tiare and Latte Lath, were just up front without a lot to do. So it was one of those games for Atlanta, and Inter Miami did exactly what you're supposed to do, which is dominate. That said, I don't know if we have any questions about Messi or Suarez. I know maybe people don't love Suarez, but I think we all know what he is in this team. Tadeo Allende and Baltasar, I think we know are pretty locked into those two starting spots. I think Yannick Bright, for whatever he showed last night, is probably not in a position to earn the job over Rodrigo de Paul. So that midfield feels pretty set. And then the back line, Jordi Alba is obviously going to start, and the other three I don't think are going to play. So I'm not sure there's a lot to take away from this other than the front line did what they were supposed to do. You got a couple goals, and everyone just feels good about their performance in this game.
So you're telling me after yesterday's performance, you're not convinced that Inter Miami is going to win the MLS Cup?
Well,
No, you said it. It's a feel good. It's a feel good game. It's a game that allows us to bring a little bit of the mojo back, and you've nailed it. That I don't know if it tells us anything about the players as such. Messi is just doing what Messi does best. Suarez is going to be the striker even in the playoffs. I think there's a couple of interesting points with the midfield because I do think there's a case to be made that Yannick Bright should be starting. And I have a feeling that if we lose the first playoff game, I think the second and third game, Bright is going to start. So eventually he's going to get his minutes. But the only interesting portion for me is obviously the midfield and then the wings who actually plays, whether it's Baltazar, Segovia, Silvetti. There's a lot of options now that some of these players are back available. But other than that, Lujan Aviles did much better than they did against Chicago, obviously keeping a clean sheet, but they're not going to be the starters in the playoffs. And I think Ian Frey is going to start over Cello. So not too many takeaways from this game. But it was a feel-good and a fantastic performance without actually looking too much into it.
you just gave me a terrible, terrible reminder of a possibility that I really hadn't spent any time thinking of. But I assumed that if Inter Miami lost, it would be season over. And then we would be talking about the offseason. And what do you do with the coaching staff? What do you do with certain players in terms of keeping them or moving them on or whatever? But you just made me realize there's a possibility that we lose a game in the playoffs and still, in that first round, have a chance to go advance still. And the idea that we don't have to criticize the season as a whole, the coaching staff, but just individual decisions that go wrong. And there's a world where we're talking about starting Yannick Bright over one of these guys, that I might lose my head if we end up there.
That means we have to do one episode on the individual decisions and then the one episode on the entirety of what this season was, right?
But I guess my point is that conversation will come after the season.
Yeah.
But there's a chance we lose a game and the season's not over yet in the playoffs. And I don't know if I'm ready for that. I think they need to sweep the first round just for my own sanity. Okay. Jordi Alba. This was his big game. Big game is the wrong word. This was his celebration game. And we saw him score the celebration with his kids. It was beautiful. It was awesome. It was from Messi. He returns the favor by giving the assist to Messi later on. I don't know if you could have drawn this up any better. Like, congratulations to Jordi Alba. I know we talked about his retirement announcement earlier this week, but like, it's almost, we couldn't talk about it enough to do it justice. He has been a huge part of this Inter Miami story. And in the game that was designed to celebrate his Inter Miami career and his total soccer career, he put on an amazing performance and he looked great. And it was as good of vibes as you could possibly have. So I did want to stop and take a moment and just like appreciate and celebrate that.
He can play at least a year more. He's got so much in the tank. I think with Sergio Busquets, you can almost forgive him for thinking, okay, the intensity is a bit too much. He's ready to retire. But with Jordi Alba, it just seems like it's a little too early. So I'd love to know what the decision-making behind that is, and maybe we can talk about it in the off-season. But for this game specifically, if you and I were to draw up how this game should go for Jordi Alba's sake, that's exactly how we would draw it up. 1 assist for Messi, 1 assist from Messi, and a goal. And that's just brilliant. It goes to show that when those two are on song, there's no better duet in the MLS than Jordi Alba and Lionel Messi. And I just hope in the playoffs, they continue to perform with that much chemistry and get us over the line despite some of the fallacies and weaknesses we've seen in this team. And as I was saying last episode, I think this might galvanize the team to actually go and put that extra foot forward to make sure they secure the victory, because it is going to be sad seeing these two legends retire, and it is going to be sad to see Jordi Alba retire when I think 2 weeks ago, everyone thought he's going to be at Inter Miami for at least another year. So very sad, but good to see that he's retiring on a high note for me. He's not going to be one of those players where you're thinking, okay, it's high time for him to hang up his boots now. This is going to be a player that you're thinking he's retiring on the high. And what a game to finish off your last home game of the season, and you get a goal and assist. It was fantastic.
Yeah, he did mention this week in one of his, someone asked him about his retirement decision, and he said that he feels like he could have played a year or two extra, like he could still play another year or two, but there's other reasons that he's doing this. And I don't know if now's really the time to think about that, but again, I'm sure we'll talk about him more when we get to awards. So I'll leave it at that. This was supposed to be his game, and it absolutely was, though.
Yep.
I mentioned this yesterday. I'm just going to briefly mention it again today, but Inter Miami took off in the 55th minute Yannick Bright, and they put on Fafa Picault, who was an attacking player, and it was Baltasar Rodriguez that sort of filled in Yannick Bright's position. I wouldn't call him a true midfielder, but he was certainly taking on a lot of that responsibility, albeit in a Baltasar Rodriguez fashion, still trying to be a progressive piece. Any thoughts on Baltasar in the midfield? Is there anything that you're interested in having moving forward? Does it change anything about anything, or was it just Inter Miami was in such control of that game that it didn't really matter?
I think that's mostly the thought process there. Inter Miami was very comfortable when Javier Mascherano was fine taking Yannick Bright off. Didn't need to be that early, but he probably thought to himself, if something happens, we don't have the subs or whatever. So that's probably why he did that. I will say, with Baltasar Rodriguez being in the middle, I don't see too much into it. The only thing I would see is that's probably the 1-to-1 with Rodrigo de Paul. That's the role Rodrigo de Paul would play. So that's probably why Javier Mascherano was like, let's put a slightly more attacking player in that middle next to Sergio Busquets. But I'm not reading too much into it.
I guess I'm not reading anything into it for this season, but if Baltasar's back next year, I guess I'm going to have this little note in my head that maybe we might see Baltasar in the midfield at some point. Just as something I'm going to keep track of. So I thought I'd mention it on the podcast and actually put the burden on
Fair
you
enough.
guys to remind me about it when it happens. Okay. I don't have much else to say about this game. I find it very difficult to have takeaways aside from the goalkeeping position, which I'm sure we'll get to in awards. So, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get to those awards?
No, not really. I'm just looking at a couple of stats for some of our players just to prepare myself for the awards. So I think I'm on the same boat with you. I am ready to move on to the next segment of this show.
Okay. Well, then it's awards time. For those that haven't seen the show before, we give out 6 awards after every game: a heron in the match, a heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. And since Mark went first last time, I'm taking the number 1 spot. I'm giving out the man of the match. And as much as I would love to give it to Jordi Alba, there was only one best player on the field for Inter Miami, and that was Lionel Messi. 2 goals, an assist. The MVP has been locked up for some time. He may have just locked up the Golden Boot Award. And he's the greatest player that we'll ever watch at Inter Miami. And I'm just enjoying this. And if there's any last hurrah that comes out of Busquets and Jordi Alba's retirement, I think it might be from this player, actually, more so than Jordi and Busquets and anyone else. I think it might be Lionel Messi, who cherishes these moments and takes advantage of these moments more than anyone.
Somebody mentioned in the Raw reaction yesterday that Lionel Messi was very pissed when the Sergio Busquets celebration was happening. And then yesterday he looked a lot happier, at least in some way. But I think he wants this. He really wants this MLS Cup. It's not going to change who he is as a player. Like, he's not going to go that extra step. He already performs at the best possible level. He has been producing goals and assists like it's nobody's business. For somebody who doesn't watch the MLS, and if you tell them that Messi is still balling out, none of them are going to be surprised. His numbers are insane. He's going to win back-to-back MVPs, which I don't believe has been done before.
It's never been
and
done.
I think,
Just for the record, only one player has ever won the MVP twice, and that was back once in, I think, 97 and once in 2002. So it has been a long time since anyone's even won it twice, much less back to back. And you're right, he's going to win it twice.
if he doesn't win it twice, then Inter Miami should go on a riot. But also, he's going to win the Golden Boot. Denny Bouanga is going to find it very difficult to score 2 goals in the last game. If he does, then, well, fair play to him. But Messi still has 1 more game to go. He is going to win the Golden Boot. He is going to win the MVP. You talk about a season where we've fallen short as a team. Messi still performed at the exact level you would expect him to. He has been brilliant, thoroughly. Of course, he's played a lot more games this season, but still, his performance level has been fantastic. And speaking of yesterday, he just looked on cruise control. He was enjoying himself in the middle. He was playing deep. He was playing front forward. He was putting in assists. He was putting in goal opportunities. Could have had a hat trick, but of course, we know he hates that for himself. So, all in all, one of the most comfortable performances from the GOAT that we've seen in a very long time. And any other day, he could have had 4 goals.
Do you see this smug smile on my face?
I do. I always see the smug smile on your face.
Do you know what comes after a smug smile from Scotty?
Facts.
Facts.
Stats.
And also proof that I was right. And you know what gives me a super smug smile? Proof that I was more right than you. I just looked and was reminded of my show notes. Do you want to guess all competitions how many goal contributions Messi has this year? No, before we play that game, do you want to go back into your memory bank and think about what you said in our super long, too big preview show about how many goal contributions Messi would have this season?
I said 40, I think. Maybe more than that.
You said just over 40, but less than 50.
Yeah.
And I said 65. Do you want to guess
That's
what he's at
insane.
right now?
Okay, so 25 goals in the MLS. He obviously scored, 26 goals
26.
in the
26.
MLS. He scored in the Club World Cup. He scored in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I'd say taking all those games, 10 more goals maybe. So that's 36 goals, let's say. Then he's probably got about 15 assists. That takes it up to 51. I think he's at about 57, 58.
He's at 54 goal
Okay,
contributions.
okay, good. That's nowhere near 65, by the way.
No, but he's got at least 3 games to go. And do you want to
Oh
bet
my
against
God.
him?
I don't want to bet against him. If he gets 2 goal assists in each, that's what? 6. That's going to take him to 60 at least. 65 is still too high. But
It depends how deep Inter Miami goes.
I concede. I didn't get this one right. I said less than 50 and he's already over 50. So I've lost this one. We'll see if you get the 65 mark right.
To be fair, we interviewed a lot of Inter Miami people, and almost all of them said under 50, except Ashley from Messi & Co., who said 100. And
Who knows ball?
I definitely feel like if anyone nailed it, it was me. Now, don't go back and rewatch the preview because I'm sure there's a number of other things I said that were dumb. But that one I feel good about. Okay.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day, man.
Exactly. No, he's going to win the MVP. I think that's been locked up for weeks. Really. Like, as good as Andres Dreyer is, as good as Denny Bouanga has been down the stretch, like, he's just getting 3 goal contributions every time he gets on the field. And no one's going to keep up with that. So I think that's been locked up. The Golden Boot, when we talked last year about having the crown and how many different jewels you're going to have in the crown, I think that's like one jewel, but it's a jewel and it makes it all shiny. So that's awesome. I think it's a done deal. And I think in this game, he was, again, the best player. And again, I was watching it again back today. And 4 or 5 moments where he's in the box with an opportunity to score. And if he has 5 moments in the box with an opportunity to score in every game from here until the end, I think Inter Miami is going to win all of those games. And so he did exactly what I could have wanted from him. And, you know.
So once again, you're saying Inter Miami's winning the MLS Cup.
Well, if it walks like a duck, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. You get the unenviable task, and I consider this your punishment for abandoning us. By the way, before we get to the Heron That Flew North, I just want to say, your last episode here, we talked about how if they started losing while you were gone, it would be your fault. And I just want to point out that as soon as you come back, they start winning again. So I think it may have been your fault. I'm glad to know you're going to be here from the playoffs. So maybe I am saying we're going to win the MLS Cup.
Now might be the time to tell you I'm taking a long vacation for the next month and a half. I'll be back for the final, though.
Yeah, okay. The Heron That Flew North, this is your punishment because this was a game where I thought everyone played well. For those that haven't seen this show before, the Heron That Flew North is awarded to the heron that was doing the wrong thing because herons do not fly north for the winter. They don't fly anywhere for the winter. So if you catch one flying north, you caught one doing the wrong thing. And in that vein, Saur, this game's Heron That Flew North was
Yannick Bright. Let's move on.
Didn't you read the chat, man? He got injured.
I know. I don't know why I gave it to him. I think I was the most comfortable giving it to him without bringing upon me the wrath of the chat. I had a couple of options. I saw the advanced stats and I had to rely on that because my eye test said I thought he was completely fine. He did a lot of good things, but advanced stats didn't particularly like him. I was very tempted to give this to Luis Suárez, very much so. I was about to push the button, and then I thought to myself, maybe not. Especially when he scored a banger of a goal. It might not be good to give him Heron That Flew North award just because of that goal. So for me, it's Yannick Bright, but I honestly do not have a specific reason why I'm giving him this award. I just think he was great, but didn't score a goal. There you go. The other one was Aviles, but I thought Aviles was fine as well. Who would you have given it to?
I probably would have given it to Cello, but because I think there was like 3 moments where he was a little rusty, but in a normal game, he would have been a totally fine performance. I thought everyone played well. I'm not going to hate on you giving it to Yannick Bright because I also don't feel like anyone really deserved this award in this game. And again, that's why it's called a punishment, because you have to be the bad guy for this time.
Yeah.
I am ready to move on, though.
I'm sorry. All right, next award.
My first award is the Smiles All Round Award.
Of course, that award goes to Jordi Alba. Who else would it go to? Smiles all around for that fantastic, fantastic performance. Jordi Alba, get in there, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I was tempted to give him man of the match because of the environment, the moment. I think Messi played better, and I wanted to stick to the spirit of what we do here. But that doesn't mean Jordi Alba didn't play a phenomenal game and a feel-good performance in every sort of version of the word or phrase. He played great, got a goal, got an assist. I think he's been playing really, really well over the past 8 weeks or so, maybe 10. Since we played those 2 Cincinnati games, I think Jordi Alba has been given a much more aggressive, attacking, free, offensive role, and it is what he should have been doing all season. He has thrived in it. I'm sure his numbers look great. And once again, he's showing us he's an incredible talent that's absolutely built to dominate this level week in and week out. And it is, I think if you have watched Jordi Alba for the last 15 years, it's a happy moment because you get to celebrate him one final time and he's going out on his own terms and all those things. I will say, for an Inter Miami fan, it is a sad moment because we only got 2 years of Jordi Alba, 2.5 years of Jordi Alba, and he still has more in the tank. So I'm very happy for him, but I'm a little sad that this is the end for Jordi Alba. But in a I'm happy for you, smiles all around kind of way.
I had a really good award for him, but I think I'm going to be able to give it in the next few games. So I'm going to keep it to myself for now. I also, of course, thought he was probably the second best player on the pitch, maybe close to being man of the match as well. Brilliant game. We've talked about it. Do you want to know how many goal contributions he's had across all competitions this season compared to last season?
Last year, I believe he had 14, and I'm going to guess he has 13 this year.
Last year, he had 30 goal
Last year,
contributions,
he
not
had
goal contribution. Not
30.
goals. Yeah.
And this year, I'm guessing he has 23.
This year, he has 30. Last year, he has 30.
Mark that down because I want to go track how many of those came over the last 10 weeks because
Yeah.
I think a lot of them did.
He has 8 goals and 12 assists this season. And last season, he had 5 goals and 15 assists across all competitions. Obviously, he's played, I think, 1 competition extra. But he's still got more games to beat that. I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to beat that. And last season, we were talking about him being the best defender in the league just by virtue of the goal contributions. You're not going to be able to replace that. Sergio Reguilon is not going to provide you with 30 assists. Wait, 20 assists. Let's say 30. My bad. My
You
math.
just said 20, 30. It's okay.
20 each. There you go. It's the same across the board. 5, 15, 12, 8. But I don't think you get 20 goals and assists from any other left back you buy. It's just not going to be the same. Which is insane. Insane.
I do feel bad for Sergio Reguilon because he's not going to be this. And I don't even. That's not what this is about. This is about Jordi Alba, but I do kind of feel bad for Sergio. Fantastic player, fantastic talent. I don't think I'm the right person to eulogize the career of Jordi Alba, but it was special, and it's been special to Inter Miami, and I'm thankful he decided to come here, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, Saur, what is your first award?
My first award is the Waiting in the Wings Award.
Waiting in the Wings Award. Oh, okay. I have the obvious answer, but now I'm wondering if you're trying to trick me. So I'm
Listen,
gonna
mate,
see who's
I
playing.
just ran 10 miles today. There's no way I'm going to try and trick you. I don't have the brain capacity to do that.
I don't think anyone else actually could fit this. So it's Rocco Ríos Novo. He is. Well, go ahead. Tell me why you gave him this award.
I was thinking understudy. I was thinking theater, and I thought to myself, if I do understudy, that's way too obvious. But apparently, waiting in the wings is also quite obvious.
Well, you know what it
Rocco
was,
Ríos Novo. Yeah, go
but
on.
here's your problem. Waiting in the wings has to be a young player
Yeah,
because you're going to grow into it.
he's
And
young.
yes, but the only other young players that played were Yannick Bright, who already got an award and is ineligible, Baltasar Rodriguez, who this doesn't really fit because he's emerged as the starter at that position, and Toto Avias, who I think is on his way out. So that. The problem was not the award or the name; it was the fact that we didn't have 5 other U22 players on the field for which
No,
this could have
Pep
been.
gets it absolutely right. It could have been Fafa because he's a winger and he's waiting for his chance. But nonetheless, this is about Rocco Rios Novo. I know you have a lot to talk about him. I don't know how we actually have this conversation without the facts, because a lot of what we're going to talk about Rocco Rios Novo and the goalkeeping situation will be quite subjective as a conversation and based on conjecture rather than anything else. But his start yesterday, his performance has sowed a lot of doubt in my mind about what his position is on this team and whether there has been, over the last couple of weeks, a complete 180 degree in Javier Mascherano's mind as to who his starting goalkeeper is. I'm leaning more and more towards 80% Rocco being the favored starting goalkeeper now for Javier Mascherano, and 20% this is nothing. I don't know how I feel about it. I think Rocco Ríos Novo will do a better job than Astari just generally in the playoffs. I think his overall game is better. He's a better goalkeeper. I know stats wise, you're the stats person, so you can talk more to it about how many goals he saved. But his performance generally looked very good yesterday. He's grown into his role. He's become a lot more confident, a lot more calm and composed, commands the back line well. Didn't have much to do yesterday, but I generally think I feel a lot more comfortable watching Rocco in goal, which is a wild statement to make. And I don't think I would have ever said that 6 months ago. But there's definitely something here that we need to talk about.
Let's talk first about last night, and then we can talk about the bigger picture, because I have the Javier Mascherano quote about the goalkeeping situation, and we'll get to that. But just last night, he makes 3 saves. One of them I thought was particularly nice, and it's not to say, and maybe I worded this wrong in the raw reaction, it's not to say that Ustari can't make good saves, but he doesn't make that specific save where it's like low, hard, and a yard away from him. He can make it at his own feet, like he gets his hand out quick to his own feet, but a yard away, he doesn't make that save. And Rocco did, which I thought was nice. But I agree with you. He's been genuinely like really pleasant to watch, and especially for a young kid. And maybe that is biasing my opinion on him a little bit, because I do tend to give the younger players a little bit more leeway and leash, and maybe overappreciate some of their moments. And for those that don't know, the typical saying is that a goalkeeper is 5 years behind on the development curve.
Yeah.
And so if he's 22, that's like a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old breaking through. And I think when he's come on, not just last night, but this year, he's looked really nice. So especially since the Leagues Cup, I thought he totally manned up in the Leagues Cup and was awesome. So just last night, in and of itself, I thought this was a nice, positive game for Rocco Ríos Novo. And if this had happened last week, which it did, but if this was an isolated game for him, I would have said this was a really nice game. Doesn't mean much.
Well, I don't know. We'll find out if it doesn't mean much or not. I
Okay.
have a feeling this might mean a lot.
So it wasn't an isolated game, which is the bigger conversation here. And I think the most interesting thing that happened last night. And I know the Jordi Alba thing is a feel-good story and moment and performance, but as far as Inter Miami's future, the goalkeeping thing is the biggest, most interesting thing that happened last night. And here's the quote. When asked about it after the game, Javier Mascherano said, I should preface, Javier Mascherano says a lot of things that mean nothing. And he's done it all year, and we have generally disregarded his quotes. But because I think this is a very confusing situation, I'm going to bring him in because it's all we have to go off of. Javier Mascherano last night said about Rocco Ríos Novo, he had a good match. It's important for us and the team to have competition in each spot. Now, I understand why you might think about that and say, we didn't need competition at striker or at the number 10 or on the wings or in the midfield or at center back or at left back or right back. Okay. So pushing all that aside, does this tell us anything about what's going on in the goalkeeping room right now?
Here's my statement, and feel free to agree or disagree, but this is what I think about the situation. I think Javier Mascherano realized that Oscar Ustari has not had a really good season. Like, he hasn't necessarily done himself any favors. He's been fine. He's been average. There's been a few games where he's cost us points. And after that Chicago game, perhaps just generally his performance level over the last few weeks, he's thinking to himself, I'm not particularly happy with the way the team and the defense plays when Oscar Ustari is in goal. I'm going to give Rocco Ríos Novo a run out and see how he does. And he has been performing well. His Leagues Cup performance was not just an isolated performance. He's shown that he's grown into his own in this role. And now Javier Mascherano is thinking to himself, I'm probably going to give this kid an opportunity to actually play in the playoffs because I'm not happy with my first choice. I'm at that. Feel free to disagree with me, but I think Javier Mascherano has, over the last few games, come to an understanding that Ustari is not up to the mark to start in the playoffs.
Okay. I want to say what I would have done as preface for how I think about all of this. I think Ustari had to start last night, and I think he had to start next week, and I think he has to start through the playoffs. That's what I would have done. Because you have done so much this year. We've had the Drake calendar conversation plenty of times. But you've done so much this year to make Ustari the guy, and that goes into the contract situation. Like a lot of things. You gave Ustari the reins and said, you're my guy. And Rocco has come in as a rotation piece or when Ustari got injured or whatever, and he's been fine. In a short sample, I will also admit. But you've tied your wagon or your horse to your wagon, and that's Ustari, whatever the saying is. And so you have to ride that out, or you have to decide I was wrong and I have to do something else. The problem with that, and this is my biggest fear, is the playoffs start after the next game. And I am worried that Javier Mascherano does not understand that you are supposed to be set and firing on all cylinders at the start of the playoffs. Part of me thinks that he's still toying with the goalkeeping situation because he still wants guys to feel like they don't have it, unless they're Luis Suárez, that they have competition, and that he's going to go back to Ustari on Saturday against Nashville and plans to start him through the playoffs because he doesn't understand how you're supposed to handle playoff situations. And if that's the case, and I am terrified that that's the case, it's just another example of this guy just not even remotely understanding what this job is all about. That, not saying that's necessarily the case, but if that is the case, my hypothetical scenario that I am afraid of being the truth is the case, it'll just be another thing we talk about when we talk about Mascherano's coaching job this season after it's all over.
I hope you're making a list because there's a lot.
My instinct is telling me that you don't start Rocco 2 games in a row like this unless you think he's actually your guy.
And that was my point. I
Yeah,
will say
I agree with you, by the way.
the
Just to be
Nashville
clear.
game is going to give us exactly what we need, the answer. I think whoever starts the Nashville game starts the playoffs. If that's not the case, then Javier Mascherano is an absolute diabolical coach. And honestly, that's probably what we may need to win the MLS Cup. We had Tata Martino who knew exactly how the playoffs work, and we completely lost. And now we have Javier Mascherano who has no clue how any of this works, who's coaching we've questioned the entire time. But maybe that's what gets us through to the MLS Cup final and win it. Who knows? We can be hopeful. But I think the Nashville game is going to be a big indicator. But that's where we're at.
Like, I want to wrap my head around what you just said, because what you just said was basically, we'll figure out who's going to be our starting goalkeeper on the last day of the season.
What about this entire season makes you think we're going to figure it out well in advance and be prepared for the playoffs? We've been doing things on the fly for the entire season. It's what Javier Mascherano wakes up and thinks that day is what's going to happen. That's what it is. We're Vibes FC before we even think it's Vibes FC. So, anyways, moving on to the next award. What's the award you have?
I think this is the biggest thing. So I just want to make sure and kind of filibuster to make sure there's nothing else I have to say, because I don't want to make this about whether it's the right decision over the course of the, like, how ridiculous it is we might end up here after everything that's gone on this season. But I do want to ask this, and I think maybe this is where we should go with this. Is this the right decision?
No, it's not. You want stability, and this is creating a lot of instability in the team unnecessarily. I think Rocco is the better player than Ustari, but you should have backed this horse a while ago if you wanted to make this decision. This is the wrong time to be making it, because now what happens is if Rocco has a poor game in the playoffs, that's going to be crucify central, not just for Rocco, but also for Javier Mascherano. So he's not setting anybody up for success in this way.
But I think it's over. I think you've already screwed that up.
Yeah. But you asked me, do you think this is right or wrong? And
sorry.
Yeah.
I don't mean last night's decision. I mean this weekend's decision. If it's Rocco, if Rocco is his new number one, do you think that's the right decision or the wrong decision? Because from this point on,
start him next weekend against Nashville.
I think it's too late to go back to starting. Yeah. If any of this makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh my God. We're running in loops now. We have no idea how Javier Mascherano's mind works. This is shambolic. I thought I struggled with Tata Martino, and then Inter Miami front office was like, hold up. Wait a minute. We're going to give you Javier Mascherano, whose decision making you won't be able to figure out at all. His team lineups are easy to predict, but his decision making is just all over the place.
Okay, so just one word answer. Who should be the goalkeeper starting from this point on?
Rocco. I almost had a Freudian slip again. Rocco should be the goalkeeper starting this point on. You come this far with him, just do it. Just pull the trigger.
I don't even know how to answer this question because it's so ridiculous that we've ended up here. My brain could never have gotten to this point. Okay. We can go to the last one. And by the way, we will be rehashing this conversation in a week from now. But
no, there's two more, by the way. You got one, I've got one.
Yes, the next award. Oh, it's my award. Okay. I'm giving the 22 under 22 award.
The 22 under 22 award, of course, Noah Allen was the one who was part of the 22 under 22. The only other player who we have under 22 is either Toto Avilés or Baltazar Rodriguez. I'm not sure how old Baltazar Rodriguez is, so I'm going to say this award goes to Toto Avilés for actually a stellar performance in the backline.
Baltazar Rodriguez is 22, so he's ineligible for 22 under 22.
There you go.
It does go to Toto Avilés.
Are we going to predict all our awards today? I hope you get my next
Maybe.
one.
Toto Aviles was one of the 22 under 22 in the MLS last season. And this year he's eligible again. Inter Miami had 5 players, and a couple of them were eligible again this year. And obviously was not going to be a part of that list again because he didn't play much this year. Clearly, he and Javier Mascherano don't have the same opinion on what being a good soccer player means, or at least Toto doesn't have whatever Mascherano is looking for. I think it's fair that a coach doesn't play a player because he doesn't like the player. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like it, but I think that's fair. I feel bad for Toto because I thought he played well last night. I don't think that means much because it wasn't a particularly good competition. But I just keep going back to this thought I had last year, and for the first 18 months, was that every month he felt like he was a better player. And we said that. And every month he would get an award where it's like, man, this guy just slowly but surely, he's getting better and better and better. And I wanted to give him an award today because, A, I feel bad for what he's gone through this season. I think it's really disappointing for him. I was disappointed by it. But I also think this might be the last time he plays for Inter Miami. And I wanted to co-give this award to Ryan Saylor because I think it might also be the last time he plays for Inter Miami. But just specifically Toto, who was such a huge part of the Supporters' Shield last year and both of Inter Miami's trophies. Ignominious ending, and for a player that I really did like and appreciate and I thought was getting better all the time. And so shout out to him for a great, potentially final performance. And I wish you a ton of luck moving forward because I think you have a lot of talent, and I think we're going to be looking back at Toto Aviles in 5 years because he's starting on a mid-table team in Spain or Italy or something, and we're like, remember when we had that guy?
If I was the coach of Inter Miami, my starting centre-back partnership this season, for all the big games, for the majority of the games, would be Noah Allen and Toto Aviles.
Same.
And I think that centre-back partnership, over the course of the season, up until this point, would be ready for the playoffs. We'd be talking about it as a robust central defensive partnership that can lock down any opposition offense. It has the exact complementarity, the exact skill set that you need. Now, a lot of people in the chat are going to talk about, but Aviles has been so inconsistent. He picks up yellow cards. He hasn't this season. This season, that has not been an issue. One of the reasons is because he's obviously not played as much. But the way you get the best out of these young players is by consistently playing them and backing them, even when they're in patchy form. I absolutely despise Javier Mascherano's tactics or whatever strategy you call it. And sorry to talk about Javier Mascherano again, but I think one of the reasons Aviles has suffered is Javier Mascherano. But I despise the strategy that he goes with. 3 games for one player, then off, and then 3 games for another player. That's not how you build a team. You need to have a preferred starting 11, and then you rotate them at the right moments to make sure the rest of the squad is being used well. Yes, you want competition in those positions, but if somebody has one bad game, especially if it's a young player, you can't just pull them off and then play somebody else for the next 5 games. You have to give them the consistent run of form and trust them. And I think that's the biggest issue I've had with Javier Mascherano, that he doesn't trust his own players. And that's the reason up until this point, he doesn't know who his starting 11 should be. And he trusts the wrong players. It's speaking volumes of Javier Mascherano that at the start we thought these young players are going to thrive under him. And now we're losing a lot of that quality. I know this is a conversation we're going to have next episode when we do the midweek episode. But just to wrap it all up, Toto Aviles has been the biggest sufferer of Javier Mascherano. And I would have genuinely placed my bet on him being one of the top defenders in the league if he was given a run out this season. And it's sad that it's come to this. But honestly, I hope he goes somewhere else and actually performs and has a great career, because this season he hasn't been treated well at all. I think we should have got more out of Toto Aviles this season, and it's unfortunate that this is what it's come to, but good performance yesterday, and I'm glad that you gave him an award.
I I don't want to make this a Gonzalo Lujan or Maxi Falcone question, but really to celebrate Toto Aviles. Because again, last year he was all the yellow cards, all how much we all complained about the defense, even though it's been worse this year. He won an award for being one of the best young players in the MLS. And this year, it has been this year. The joke that we thought that Mascherano was going to be great for young players probably capped off by the fact that Argentina didn't even qualify for the U20 World Cup 2 years ago when Mascherano was the coach. Here
And
they
now
are
they're
in
in
the
the
semifinals 2 years later. So, yeah. Okay.
Hey, that means we're going to win the MLS Cup in 2 years.
You said it.
Yep. Yeah.
the math is mathing on that one. Okay. As far as Toto, I just sad season, and I do hope he's back next year under a new coach. But anyways,
Yeah.
Okay. What is your final award?
You said it. The math is mathing. I'm going to say 2+2 quick maths award.
Can you imagine if your award was the math is mathing?
I almost did. I almost had it. But it's 2
What is
plus
it?
2 quick maths. Not math. Not what you degenerate Americans call it. It's mathematics. And the short form is quick maths.
I don't have any problem with you calling it maths. I want you
Thank
to know
you.
that. Okay. In fact, I want you to be totally clear and understanding that the only person that's not inclusive of language here is you.
Is me.
You're the one who's stubborn about the
I
exact way it's said. Okay. I just wanted to be clear
100%
about
understand that.
that. Okay.
And I would like to apologize to all the Americans for calling them degenerate. It was very uncalled for.
Except Adam Beaudry and
Yeah.
whoever's in charge of Barcelona for making Diego Cochen not play for the U.S. Anyways,
There you go.
2 plus 2 equals 4 quick math or just 2 plus 2?
Just 2+2 quick maths. That's all it is.
You're going to give this to Sergio Busquets because he was also really nice. And I don't know if you know this, fun fact, but he's actually incredible at doing math in his head. And you knew this, so I guess you did know this because you gave him this award. Nailed it.
Oh, we would have been so close to getting a full Monty this time around if you had picked up my award. But no, this award goes to Baltazar Rodriguez. 2 goals, 2 assists in 5 games. The math is about to math, man. The math is about to math. He seems to be ticking along well. Looks like when he's in healthy run of form, he can actually put in some good, decent performances. And he would have been a great signing this season if he could actually stay fit. Good assist yesterday. Overall, his performance was quite decent as well. I enjoyed it. And I think the biggest talking point I had for him was I think he's going to start the playoffs. If he's healthy, he's going to start the playoffs. I think Javier Mascherano has decided he's his player. That deposes Segovia of all players. And I'm a little bit concerned about that because I love Segovia. But I'm also okay with it because I think Baltazar brings in a little bit more balance to this squad or this starting 11. And feels like the math is now starting to math and it's looking good. 2+2, quick maths. Maybe it's going to be more in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was doing the maths on Baltasar today. 13 games, 5 starts.
Yes.
4 goal contributions, 2 goals, 2 assists. Let me see if I can pull it up with the show notes. Talasco Segovia, 15 goal contributions in 2,800 minutes. That's 0.48, so just about half a goal contribution per 90. Baltasar Rodriguez, 0.58. Shorter sample size. He's played 542 minutes, so take that for what it's worth. But it is an offensive uptick, and I think the eye test clearly shows that he is ultra aggressive. I wonder if he's been a little bit less aggressive over the last couple games. I don't know. I wanted to get your opinion on that. He does something that bothers me that clearly doesn't bother anyone else. So I guess I'll just leave it at that.
What is it?
Like yesterday, you said he presses really well. And I think he flies into pressing, but he's always off
And then
balance.
gets beat. Yeah.
And he gets dribbled by. And that is like my pet peeve. So like I certainly grade him harsher than I guess everyone else does, which is fine. But offensively, I think he is like a tick above what we're getting out of Telasco. And considering, I think, generally over the last two and a half months, and I maybe coincide this with when Jordi Alba was given more opportunity to get forward. Inter Miami's tried to be more aggressive offensively. And if you remember earlier in the season, we were talking about how Mascherano was too conservative and that this roster is not built to be a defensive team and all this other stuff. We haven't had that conversation in months. Like, Mascherano has certainly tried to push the pedal a little bit farther towards offense. And I think the team has responded in a lot of ways. We see a lot more of the 4 goals scored type performances over the last couple months than we did earlier in the year. And so if that is Baltasar, like Baltasar is another step in that direction, like, I get it. I totally get it. So I don't know what that means for Telasco Segovia. If you get, just like with, well, I guess Yannick
Put him in
Bright's
the midfield, man.
But
Put him in the midfield.
If Segovia gets benched because a different player gives you a better chance to win, I'm okay with that. Even though I think Segovia has played well and probably deserves to start, like, I can live with that as we get into crunch time. Just like we saw with Julian Gressel last year. Different than Yannick Bright, because I think Yannick Bright has played better than Rodrigo de Paul, but that's a different story. So I'm fine with it. I've been on the idea that he's going to be the starter for like 2 weeks now, but
I wasn't here for 2 weeks, so
yeah, you missed that all those conversations.
I'm finally on board.
You're on board, and I think we got. Let me rephrase that. I thought I was totally on board with what R11 was going to be in the playoffs, but the goalkeeping situation now makes me
now it's all over the place.
Question everything. So who knows?
No, just about Baltasar Rodriguez. His first instinct is always to take man on or to go forward, which is good, I think, which is what this team needs. Segovia would be a lot better suited to the midfield. I would totally pay to see next season a midfield of Rodrigo de Paul, Yannick Bright, and Segovia. That's a locked-in midfield if you play a midfield 3. Now, that's never going to happen if Javier Mascherano is here. But regardless, as you said very rightly, if it means that we get a better offensive output, if we can get the best out of this team, I'm okay benching Segovia. And I think Segovia can do a really important job off the bench as well. Just don't be another Gressel where he doesn't get a single minute in the playoffs.
Can I ask you, though, and I want your opinion, and I'm like front saying that I think Baltasar might give us a better chance to win than Telasco. So I'm not, like, this isn't a complaint, but it's, I guess, how I'm thinking about this. I don't actually know Telasco gives us a ton off the bench because he doesn't have sort of like spark. And I do think Baltasar has spark. And so actually I'm not entirely convinced that the best overall plan wouldn't be to have Segovia start the game and Baltasar come on in the 60th minute with a spark. And it gives you the sort of flexibility if you really need offense to take off a center back, like we saw a couple times around the Leagues Cup final, and put on Baltasar, and then you really overwhelm with numbers, which I guess you can do with Segovia as well. But then just if you want an offensive spark against a tired defense, like I think I think Baltasar can do that more effectively. But like, that's just personal preference. I don't know if that's, like, I'm not going to complain about that.
I'll be okay with whoever starts, honestly. I don't think it's that big of a deal in my mind. I would be comfortable with both of them starting. Options are good, man. It's good for a team. So I'm happy with that.
Okay, anyone else that we should talk about? Luis Suárez, that goal was super impressive. He had a couple more where he either hit the bar or were saved.
Yeah,
like,
he was crying yesterday.
I thought Luis Suárez was fine. I thought his performance was like solid. Like, he gets positive marks, especially after the goal. So,
and as I was telling you on the side, last season he had 37 goal contributions. This season he's had 33. So he's still keeping numbers, man. It's not like he's fallen off the cliff or anything.
Yeah. We're going to get news about his new contract at some point in the next couple months. And we will go back. That's going to
be an absolute storm because there's going to be so much polarization.
We should probably do a deep dive when that happens, or have a deep dive ready about Luis Suárez's season, because I've been trying to tell you guys that it's not as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be, just because it doesn't look as pretty. And I think that goal contribution number is reflective of that. It's almost and he might end up with the same amount as he had last year. Tadeo Allende had a nice cross into Messi for I guess this is maybe a criticism, not criticism, but thought on both Baltasar, later Fafa, and today Allende. Man, it was right pickings. If you wanted a goal, like last night was the defense to go get one. Baltasar gets the assist, but it was mostly Messi, Suarez, and Jordi Alba that were goal dangerous. So, if you're Allende, you're probably thinking, man, I could have gotten another one for my tally. But otherwise, I mean, he didn't play poorly.
He was good. I thought he was good in vertical situations, running in behind. So
Busquets was, I thought, again, awesome.
I had an award for him.
Kind of controlled the midfield. Do you want to give it?
No. Use it next time.
And then as far as Lujan, Aviles, and Cello, well, we talked about Aviles, but Lujan, one of his better games.
Yeah, I thought he had a decent enough game.
And if there was anyone to be worried about, it was going to be Latelath and Tiare, and I thought
they did well.
Them, so
yeah.
I thought it was good, man. Good game all around. I think everyone should feel good. The one criticism, we mentioned it last night, we didn't mention it tonight yet, is that Santi Morales gets 3 minutes. He comes on in the 89th minute, and then Tyler Hall, Samuel Basabe, and Ricardo Montenegro, specifically Tyler Hall, don't get an opportunity to come on for 5 minutes when the game is 4-0. I don't get that, but certainly I have a different outlook on player development than Javier Mascherano, so it is what it is. But I thought
Wednesday or Thursday, whenever we do the midweek episode, we shall talk about this.
Yeah. Okay. There's a couple interesting questions in the chat, and I want to come back to. But is there anything else about this game that was on your
mind? On to Nashville.
Yeah. Before we get to the chat, here's the stakes for next week's game. We play Saturday. It's decision day. All of the Eastern Conference teams play at the same time. In fact, maybe all MLS teams now that they have odd numbers. I'm not sure. But that means Orlando City. That means FC Cincinnati and Inter Miami are kicking off at the same time. Those two are tied on 62 points, and Cincinnati has the tiebreaker, and they will have the tiebreaker no matter what happens. So Inter Miami has to outperform Cincinnati, meaning if Inter Miami wins, Cincinnati draws or loses, Inter Miami goes into second place. If Inter Miami gets a draw, they need Cincinnati to lose in order for them to get to second place. If they both win, Cincinnati goes second. If they both draw, Cincinnati goes second. If they both lose, Cincinnati goes second. So Inter Miami has to outperform them. All we can do is control what happens in Nashville. I will say Cincinnati has a home game against Montreal. So certainly, you don't love that, but anything can happen in this league. So you never know. That's the situation. Okay. Amy asks, do you think Javier Mascherano will be fired?
Oh, 100%. He's gone. Unless he wins the MLS Cup, he's gone. And I don't think he wins the MLS Cup.
I think he has to. I think he has to go no matter. I think even if he wins the MLS Cup, it's done.
I doubt it. But if he wins the MLS Cup, I doubt he goes. Can you do another season of this? Or if Javier Mascherano is the coach next season, are we like, what are we gonna do?
The thing is, even if he wins the MLS Cup, he's a bad stretch away from getting fired. And why would you do that? Let him leave when he wins a trophy.
Yeah.
So that he can go get another job saying, I won a trophy. This is not working. Part of it is cultural.
That's not how psychology works, unfortunately. That's not what's going to happen. But yeah, I get your point, though.
It does in other sports. I will say there was a big college football coach firing today, and I thought it was crazy that this guy got fired at Penn State. It's not relevant to the story, but it just goes to show me that sometimes people get fired when you are not expecting it.
Yeah.
And then the other question, there's a couple names. Jerry says, serious rumors that Inter Miami is pursuing Gilberto Mora, Neymar, and Christian Medina. Do you know who Gilberto Mora is?
No clue.
Okay, I don't really think they're going to get this kid, but he's a 16-year-old, may have just turned 17, but he starts for the Mexican national team, started in the Gold Cup final this summer as a 16-year-old. I think he plays for Toluca. When he turns 18 or 19, he's going to go to Real Madrid or whatever. I don't even know if Inter Miami can sign a 17-year-old, but if there was any chance they could get this kid in the midfield, for 1 year before he moves on to, whatever, Man City. That would be phenomenal because this kid is special. He is one of those types of prospects. He's from Mexico, obviously, so maybe that won't happen. But he is one of those prospects that is genuinely sensational as a 16-year-old.
Excited for that, if that happens. Yeah. I love youth players, man. If they can get some good quality youth players in, well, what's the point? We're going to have Javier Mascherano as our coach.
Beto says you're crazy if you think they're really going after Mexican
Yeah, that's
players.
true. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it. Also, I must say, I just realized you're wearing a turtleneck and you look very dapper. So good for you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you so much. It's getting to be winter here, man. So
Yeah.
you got to adjust with the times.
And as we know, you don't do well with the cold.
Well, I am a Florida boy. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back sometime this week. I've been talking about it for a couple weeks now, but we're going to have a deep dive about player development in 2025 and how it compares to what Inter Miami's done over the last couple years.
Not well.
Spoiler alert, we will be talking about Toto Aviles again. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Have a lovely night. Until next time, don't burn the popcorn. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.